My parents and I were taking a walk outside. There were tall white fences everywhere. There was also a group of 9 dogs, perfectly aligned into a 3x3 formation. They didn't have any owners. They were just walking. I thought they may not be human, but these dogs aren't bothering anyone. For some reason, I was checking out the path ahead at every corner, and waved to my parents when it was safe. We got caught, however, and I knew we needed to go away. I turned to the left to see a river that looks like an ocean from far away. There was a long, skinny canoe, in the shape of a circle, full of people from probably Jamaica. I hopped on, and then my dad hopped on, but accidentally tore a small hole into the silk robe of a Jamaican man who said, "Hey, man, you gonna be racist with me?" He then pushes my dad into the water, and I jump in after him. Then I woke up. My mom was taking shards of glass and slicing up people who were barely alive. And once blood was spilling, she took a paintbrush and painted all of the shards of glass with blood. She even squeezed her fingers together and got the glass shard stuck in her finger. She peeled her skin apart and tore it out, with blood splattering on me. She smiled and said, "Your turn." I was in a dark room with nothing but little tiny shelves that were stacked up for however high the roof was. The entire room was darker than darkness. All I could see were the shelves of super dim light. I opened a drawer, and then a large white spider was swinging down to me from a web. I caught the web and watched it swing back and forth until it finally got enough speed to make it to a shelf. It squeezed through the drawer, and out came another white spider. This one, though, was pregnant. Spiderlings made the spider look unnaturally huge. It swung downward and I ducked. A few babies fell off of her and were crawling on me. Panicked, I stepped backwards. Crunch. My eyes grew wide and my head simply turned to face the mother spider. The last thing I remember seeing were 2 large, shiny black eyes. The lights flickered and she jumped for my face with a blood-curdling shriek. Finally, I woke up. This dream was extremely unsettling. I was in an indoor zoo that had at least 10 floors. There were monkeys and elephants. Something was causing the animals to go crazy. First, the monkeys escaped, and they're climbing down the stairs. Then I saw an elephant walking towards one of the large glass windows. The elephant broke through the window and fell to the ground. Upon impact, its head, body, and forelegs were all separated upon a sea of blood. My heart sank. It was a dramatic event. So apparently I was in a kingdom, and we were at war with another kingdom. I was a dragon rider. I had to fly into this arts and crafts store to make something. I hooked my shoelaces to the top of the shelves and started creating while upside down. There was a hotel where the floors were ordered as 24, 5, 12, 16, and 32 in that order. Huge ass stairs with a Chinese restaurant on top. We weren't allowed to go into our rooms, so the only thing we could do was store our stuff in a small fridge found on every floor. My hand hit a cactus and I had to pull hundreds of little needles out of my hand. I asked to go to the nurse, but apparently the nurse wasn't accepting any patients this year. I was in the store and they were selling these little clip things that said, "Rip out their tongues." I was at school when me and my friend were taking apart one of the ceiling lights. When we got the cover off, there were 2 iPods. I threw mine in the toilet. I was walking in an apocalypse. The school was torn apart with bricks here and there and some rebar poking out of the walls. The sky was filled with dark gray storm clouds and there were really strong gusts of wind. I imagined myself getting blown away and so I did. I landed on my face and looked up to see a huge chunk of wall rebar poking out and flying at me. I dove under it and ran back to school. Something my mom was full. It was so full I could feel a strain on my jawbone. I tried to take whatever it was out of my mouth, but I only ever got tiny slips of paper. I could read what it said, but I don't remember what it said. I kept pulling out more and more paper. Eventually, I got it all out. Next thing I knew, I see dead bodies all over the place. The last thing I saw before waking up was me carrying a Bible-sized crouton in a plastic bag. I was in an abandoned school at night. There was a mattress barricading the door for some reason. No sheets on it. I lay down on it, and through the chicken wire window, I could see little garden gnomes poking their noses on the window as they laughed. I kept seeing flashes of the silhouette of a jester flinging around chains. "Don't try to hide. Don't try to understand. said a demonic voice over and over again. I was at Walmart in the toy section playing with the toys that had the "Try Me" features. I started playing with the swords and action figures and cars, dolls, etc. And then I came across this one toy, a wooden gun. Someone ripped open the cardboard packaging. I picked up the gun and shot myself. I was curious to see how powerful it was. I wasn't shot with a foam bullet or any safe ammunition. I was shot with 2 small needles. When I tried to take them out, they each split up into 5 tinier needles, and then those into 10 tinier needles, and then 100 needles. You get the picture. I was in a bar with these creepy men. The creepiest guy of all was bald with a goatee and a painted stash. He had a few piercings on his nose and also had earrings. He was shirtless with a good amount of green tattoos and writing of some other language. His hands were long and thin. He had 4-inch-long black nails. Luna knows why I sat on top of his lap and wiggled his fingers twice. I was living in a house in a jungle. There were some huge bugs inside and outside the house. Inside the house, there were some large stink bugs. Instead of a head, they had this hole that you could see breathing. I watched as the bug became startled by me and exhaled toxic fumes from its head. The light gray mist quickly made visibility poor. I managed to clear the room by opening a window. There were more bugs. I was staring out the window, and 3 giant black beetles were standing. They were about 7 feet tall. They climbed on the walls of the house. The first scene is cool. I saw myself outside a tall window fighting a dragon. The dragon bit the sword in half and hit the outside me. I reset the time, and the outside me still lost and got turned to a large bone. The dragon bit the roof off and flew away. It began eating planets, one after the other. I sent missiles to the final planet and destroyed it so the dragon could live forever. The scene is messed up. The parents and I are in the hospital. Mama is leaning back on a dense chair. The nurse is wearing blue gloves. She explained that some of my mom's stomach needs to be removed. Everyone laughed and cheered like they're having the time of their lives. The nurse asked me if we would all like to watch the operation. I declined and everyone looked at me funny. For some reason I stayed. I watched as the nurse took a blowtorch. Everyone laughed again. I looked away. Sometime after hearing cooking sounds, Mom's belly was burned black. There were crevices that leaked green fluid. The nurse scraped it off, and then her stomach was flat and yellow. The nurse told us to make sure she doesn't get exposed to any lateral G-forces or her guts will spill out. So naturally, these morons went out and drove like maniacs around the corners. Needless to say, the nurse wasn't kidding. It was a dream I was sure glad to be woken up from.